Good evening. It's so nice to see the boardroom filled with so many smiles. Welcome. I'm going to return us back to our meeting from closed session. We have nothing to report out on closed session, so it is now 6 o'clock, and we're going to go on with our governing board meeting. Thanks for being here. Let's see here. This meeting is recorded for live streaming and archiving on the district YouTube channel. And next, I'm going to ask our students here if they would lead us in the pledge, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Thank you. Moving down the line, I'd like to get a motion to approve the agenda as written.
I move that we approve the agenda as written.
Thank you. May I get a second, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Yes. President Zeta?
Yes.
Trustee Grubbs?
Yes.
Trustee Moss? Trustee Maselli?
Yes.
And Trustee Hirsch?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're moving on to item 8, which is our highlight, and I'm going to turn this. I just did that.
Approval of the agenda.
We just did that.
We did it.
We just did it.
The agenda, but isn't 7 the highest?
That's 8 on mine.
7 on mine.
Oh, no problem. We're just going to go by mine then.
That you should.
It works for me. So 8, highlight. We are going to turn this over to Dr. Wright to do some intros, and we're excited about what we're about to experience.
Okay, good evening. At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Mark Nelson, our principal of Benicia Middle School, to introduce the band.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Wright. Thank you so much for inviting us tonight to perform. We are thrilled to be here to highlight our band, and I'm going to introduce our band director, Mr. Paul Hanna, who will talk a little bit about our band program.
Thank you. Should we have the musicians fill right in here? All right. Should they just wait here for the moment? Cool. All right. All right, we'll go. We are going to be walking this way. I think Ella, you'll be on that end. This is your stuff. I'll meet you in there. Should I speak into the microphone or just address? Microphone, okay, yes. Thank you.
Perfect.
So my name is Paul Hanna, and I'm the Benicia Middle School Band Director. This is my 3rd year, and I've never been so grateful for an opportunity to work with students in a musical capacity. I have had the privilege of bringing down some of my symphonic band students who are also participating in the marching band, our Benicia Middle School Viking Band. And so I'm excited to present to you the march that we're going to be playing this year at competition, Gallant Marines by Carl L. King. And here we go. the last thing I'd like to say is,
You guys are great.
yeah,
Great.
I do want to thank our school board, the administration, and all of the band boosters who make this possible. And it's a wonderful program for these students, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be a part of it. Thank you.
I just want to give another hand to Mr. Hannah and to all our students that came to perform today. What an amazing job they are doing. So early in the year, too. That's pretty incredible. Nice job. Okay, we are going to move on to our student reports. And is it Alea? Elia? You can turn it on.
Aaliyah.
Aaliyah Blackman. Okay. So nice to meet you. She's from Liberty High School, and she is the ASB person at Liberty High. So we're going to listen to what she has to share with us tonight. Thank you for being here. It's nice to meet you.
It's an honor to be here. Okay. Okay. Well, hello. Good evening, President Zeta, Superintendent Dr. Wright, fellow trustees, and cabinet members. My name is Aaliyah Blackman, and I will be representing Liberty High School this year. Liberty High School is off to a great start, and we want to welcome all the new students and their families. We held our first assembly, we recognized our new senior class, and celebrated our summer achievements along with birthdays. We played a few games, and down to the last three in the game of basketball knockout, our last girl standing was I, Aaliyah Blackman, Liberty's representative, proving girls can ball too. We had our back to school night last week, and we highlighted all the great things that make us Liberty High School. We barbecued and had raffle prizes. It was a great turnout, and thank you to all that came and supported our school. We really appreciate it. We are excited to say that we have several students enrolled in community colleges for the fall semester. We know that they would do great. We are planning our first learning through interest field trips. Based on student input, we will be visiting Solano Community College's auto programs and the Kahindi Wiley Art exhibit at the D. Young Museum. Lastly, as a whole school, we walked to the Marina Pavilion. This is the location of our graduation ceremony. We shared goals, visualized success, and made a commitment to ourselves to never give up. It's going to be a great year, and on behalf of Liberty High School, thank you.
We appreciate you being here and taking on this role, so thank you for being here. And next I have for this evening Jinjin Gao, and he's the senior class president of BHS, and Nicholas Brannigan, who's the ASB treasurer. So who's going first? Good. Thanks, Jinjin.
Good evening, President Zeta, Superintendent Dr. Wright, fellow trustees and cabinet members. My name is Jinjin Gao, the senior class president.
And my name is Nicholas Brannigan, the current ASB class treasurer at Benicia High School. Of course. As we proceed from summer to school, new and returning students had a good mentality of the school rise expectations, and leadership had organized a special welcome week for all students to engage in order to promote and awaken the school spirits. Over the last several weeks, the leadership has coordinated both new student orientation and back-to-school nights for parents and students to get familiar with the school, as well as school-hosted emergency drills for all students during school time. Also, our girls' flag football team had a fantastic turnout for their first game. Senior Sunrise, our first senior activity, took place on Friday, September 1st, and had a good response from the seniors, who enjoyed their donuts and hot cocoa.
This week, our fall sports has most their first home games with our girls' flag football team, our girls' tennis team, and our girls' volleyball team playing today, and our boys' football team playing on Friday, September 7th, which is tomorrow. Next week, we're transitioning to homecoming setup with the start of ticket sales on Monday, September 11th, following the club fair and homecoming spirit weeks. Thank you.
Thank you both. Well, all three of you, but thank you both from BHS for being here tonight. I appreciate you taking time out of your day and was
Gingy, do you know, is tomorrow's game a home game or an away game? Do you know by any chance? Thank you.
Oh, looks like somebody might be going to the game. But thank you for being here, and I know you have busy evenings and schools with school starting and homework and all that. I ask you, you're welcome to leave at this point, but thank you all for being here tonight. All right, we are going to move on to our superintendent's report. Dr. Wright.
All right, good evening. This year, we're doing some great work. We're committed to really calibrating best first instruction. Dr. Beatson here has organized some learning walks that we do every Wednesday morning at 8:30 at each school site. Had an opportunity to go to Mary Farmer just yesterday. Outstanding experience. Going in and outside of the classrooms. It's inspiring watching the teachers do what they do best and our students engaged in the lesson. We go in there and we ask three questions. We ask, what are you learning? Typically, when you ask a student, what are you learning, they're going to tell you the task that they're doing. They're going to say, well, I'm doing this worksheet, or I'm doing numbers 1 through 10. Asked a couple of students that question. They were able to recite the learning objective, which was pretty inspiring. In fact, one student said, he says, I'm actually learning how to complete incomplete sentences. I was like, oh, kind of threw me off a little bit, but it was just inspiring just to ask those questions. And we're going to continue. So governing board, I just want to just invite you every Wednesday, 8:30. We'll send you the schedule if we haven't already, and please join us. It's a great time. I also want to introduce you. We're going to do a budget roadshow on October 10th at 6 p.m. here. This will give an opportunity. We're going to work along with School Services of California. They're going to partner with us on this project, give us an opportunity to discuss our LCAP, our one-time funding grants and what that looks like, take a look at our books, and also introduce some competing needs that we're going to have forthcoming. So we just want to be transparent and make sure that the community and our staff is aware that we're all working with the same numbers. So that's going to be on October 10th at 6 p.m. The event will be live streamed, and it will also be recorded so you can watch it when it's convenient for you. Additional community engagement opportunities. I've started coffee with the superintendent. I was at Mary Farmer just this week. Next week, September 19th, I will be at Robert Semple at 8 a.m. And on the 26th, I'll be at Benicia High School. So thank you for the Mary Farmer parents that attended and participated. We had a great discussion, and I learned a lot about your perspective and that school community. We're also planning a parent education night. Vaping, it's a serious matter in our schools, and I think in any school in this country. And in talking with our administrators, they're spending a great deal of time working with our students. So we're working on putting together a night to inform and educate our parents on the dangers of vaping, but we also want to do something with the students. So that's forthcoming, so please look out for, and I'll put that in my newsletter and share that with the community when we get a date set. And lastly, I just want to talk about the collective bargaining process. It's an opportunity. The collective bargaining process is an opportunity for the district and staff to come to the table and work collectively to figure out how we're going to work best together. What's a fair compensation package? And the district, we're committed to that. And we're looking forward to coming to the table as soon as our calendars align. And we're looking forward to move forward together because we have a lot of work to do. We're doing a lot of great work, and we're going to do it together. So just wanted to end with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we're on item 10, comments from members of the public. All functions of the board meeting, including public comment. Oh, I apologize. See how little it is on mine? It's really tiny. Does any of the wonderful board trustees here have anything they would like to share? Go right ahead.
I had the pleasure of going to the high school back to school night last week. And I have to say, and I'm going to use Dr. Wright's term, it was so inspiring. There's so much going on at the high school, from from shop classes to medical classes to calculus and so much more. So I just wanted to say it was such an honor and a pleasure to watch some of those presentations. They were so professional and so clear in expectations and what these classes were about. So, thank you.
Thank you for attending. Is there anybody else that would like to share? No? I'm a no on that one too. So we're going to now move on to comments from members of the public. All functions of the board meeting, including public comments, will take place in person. Members of the public may address the board at a regular meeting on any item within the board's jurisdiction. Speaker cards are available at the entrance table. Please note the item you wish to speak to and submit a card to the board secretary. The board president will then call open session and general comments during the public comment item. Comments for items on the agenda will be called during that specific item. Comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker, or the board may limit the total time on a particular item for 20 minutes max. And just check the monitors for the 3-minute timer. By law, no action may be taken on any item raised during the public comment periods, and matters may be referred to staff before placement on a future agenda of the governing board. Please be reminded to keep your comments respectful, as children may be watching the board meeting, so I appreciate that. So the first person I have, and I apologize, but I think it's Namat Grantham. Thank you for being here.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. I just have a second replacement hip surgery. So, I just want to say that I totally support everything you guys are doing, and it's all about trying to find a middle ground, how to make whatever challenges the school board has, finding a middle ground with all the parents, whatever parents. Because the main objective is to find out what's best for the students. That's the main objective. That's what we're trying to do. And I totally support Dr. Beatson. I've worked with Dr. Beatson for a long time, and Dr. Moss, and I know, and Dr. and Trustee Zeta, and I know that because they're the ones I've worked with, and they are the ones that I have seen just through being a parent of a Benicia student since middle school up through high school, and just being a resident for over 20 years, I have seen that they have been up and beyond attentive to what the needs are for the school district. And I hope to, keep hearing from them, from Dr. Beatson and Dr. Moss, and, just continue with your fine work. And you know what? I'm with you. I am with you because you've done such amazing work. If you didn't do such amazing work, I wouldn't be with you. Because you've done such good work for my son, who's been here since he was 12 years old in the school district. So thank you, and let's see what you can keep continuing to do. You guys are amazing. You guys rock. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, we're going to go on to our next speaker, Phil Green. Would you come up to the podium? Welcome.
And I won't need 3 minutes. My name is Phil Green. I pastor a church here in Benicia called Lighthouse Covenant Fellowship. And I'm speaking on behalf of some of the parents and grandparents. It's regarding a lawsuit that the Attorney General filed a few weeks ago at a school district in Southern California. During his conference, he used the term of outing. In my neighborhood, we call it snitching. And what he was saying that their policy to notify parents about a change in the student's behavior or how they would identify themselves would be outing or snitching to the parent. I thought it was quite offensive. And so that's my comment. My question is, does this board have a policy to keep parents notified if there's a change in the student's behavior or name or gender identity? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're going to move on to our third speaker, Janet Robertson. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Janet Robertson. I have 3 children in the school district. I need my glasses.
Oh, hold on.
Is there some?
I can't get it to work, sorry.
It's not working.
glass.
There you go.
Okay. Encouraging patriotism in our schools has been fundamental since the beginning of our country. In the state of California, daily patriotic exercises are required by law in the California Education Code section 52720. You started this meeting saying the Pledge of Allegiance. And why do we say this? It's a few simple lines of gratitude and appreciation for our country, a country that also allows people not to say it. And in fact, the Supreme Court has upheld that citizens can decide if they want to say it. We have that freedom. However, our schools have a mandate to lead our children in a daily patriotic exercise, and I'm aware that this is not happening. In the elementary schools, there are teachers that are not participating in the pledge. Again, our country affords them that freedom. But when small children are watching their teachers and look up to them, and they see these trusted adults disrespecting the pledge, what should have been a patriotic exercise is now quite the opposite, and shows small children that our flag and our pledge is not something worthy of attention or respect. If our teachers, those we entrust to be examples for our children, are not participating in the Pledge of Allegiance, a different patriotic exercise should be introduced that they will participate in. In the middle school, they do not recite the pledge daily, but instead mention a historic fact during the announcements. And I love that they are sharing historic information with the children each day. But historic facts are not patriotic moments, so this does not fulfill Ed Code section 52720. Patriotism means expressing love, devotion, and support for our country. Why is this important? It is important because we need to come together as a community. We need unity. We need to overcome what divides us. We are Americans, and this is an amazing country that we should be proud of. And it is paramount that we teach our children reverence for this incredible gift we have been given, citizenship in the United States of America. This privilege cannot be taken lightly, and it can be easily lost, especially if our children are taught to disrespect it. Imagine if we as a community decided to disrespect the Benicia Panthers, for example, and we said, oh, don't wear a Panthers shirt. I'm ashamed. I'm from Benicia. I would never go to a pep rally or see a football game. I'd certainly never want to represent Benicia as an athlete or a scholar or a band member. You wouldn't catch me cheering for Benicia or participating in any local traditions. Benicia is something to be ashamed of. How long would it take before that creates a sad, shameful, unproductive town void of all joy and spirit? It is no different with our country. Daily patriotic moments are important. Please ensure this daily requirement returns to all of our classrooms.
I'm going to call our next speaker, Miss Delisa DeLorifis, if you would join us up at the podium. Excuse me. Thank you. Yes, it was. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for being here.
You're welcome. Good evening.
Good evening.
I am here to remind you of what is most important in our district, the students. In order to maintain a high quality of education for our students, you need to take care of the people that work in the schools. The office managers, secretaries, custodians, paraprofessionals, yard duties, security guards, principals, and teachers all help educate students in numerous ways. If that can't be done, and that can't be done if they don't feel valued. Last year, the district received 11.8% of LCFF ongoing funds. The staff received much less than that, leaving 5% on the table. This year, the state has given the district 8.22%. The state is worried about the teacher shortage and is trying to take care of teachers and staff through a large COLA increase. Yet this year, it seems the district is not valuing their teachers and staff. I have heard for several years about declining enrollment. With that declining enrollment, we have fewer teachers, yet the district office administration has grown. This year, we've had an influx of new students. We enrolled 185 new students, which means enrollment is not as low as previously predicted, and we should have more revenue than projected in June. In closing, I want to remind you that there isn't a program or a curriculum that can replace a good teacher. If you value your students, you will value the people taking care of them. Thank you.
Next, we have Michelle Chapman. I know she's here. I saw her. Welcome.
Oh, no, fine. That's fine. Fine. I don't mind. I have them in my classroom. It's totally fine. I get it. It's okay, Georgina. I don't. Good evening. I'm Michelle Banky Chapman, if you do not know me. I am a first grade teacher at Robert Semple, and I am also a parent of a third grader at Robert Semple and a sixth grader at BMS. I am speaking in regards to negotiations. This is my 19th year of teaching and my 11th year in Benicia. I truly have my heart in Benicia, and I, like many colleagues, want the best for our students. I am on the piloting group of teachers for ELA because we want better for our students and we want it to be research-based curriculum. As a parent, I want the best for my kids too. I keep hearing we are aiming for the first in the state. So that means we also need the best teachers. To keep the best teachers, you must pay them. And looking at districts around us, especially where I live in Contra Costa County, Benicia isn't at the top in pay or benefits. I ask that teachers all be recognized for their tireless, selfless work. I speak for many I work with, and that we deserve at least COLA, which is not a raise at all, but the ability to maintain living where we live. Truthfully, at the cost of rent, which is triple what I pay for my mortgage, or the cost to buy my home, which is now triple that, I could not afford to live here, period. My husband and I would not, and my kids. I used to pay $200 for groceries a month in 2021, and now I pay over $600 a month. Gas is now $100 at least a week. The cost of living has gone up, and our pay needs to as well. I just ask the board and the district to consider us teachers in making sure that our students are the best. You need the best out of us as well. Thank you.
And our final speaker tonight is Joan Westerman. There she is.
my esteemed colleagues and my trusted trustees. I'm Joan Westerman. I teach economics at Benicia High School, and I am here to share some teacher feedback on the subject of the 8.22% cost of living adjustment the governor's given to the schools so that we can keep up with the rising cost of things due to inflation. Yay. It is my understanding that our teachers are currently working without a contract because the district office is not ready to negotiate the contract and wages, including passing on the 8.22% COLA to teachers as higher wages. We hope that you understand that a cost of living adjustment, COLA, is not a raise. A raise is something that would actually raise our standard of living. To be able to live better this year than last year, our salaries would have to go up by more than the 8.22% cost of living increase the governor says is necessary to keep up with the cost of inflation. If, for example, you were to only give us 5%, then our standard of living would go down by 3%. We would not be able to buy as much food, rent, etc. We ask that you not lower our basic standard of living by passing on less than the 8.22% that the governor recognizes is needed to keep up with inflation. Now I'm going to read comments from 3 teachers. Teacher A asked me to read their comments due to their fear of retaliation. To the board, why does a teacher need to beg for what the governor and our representatives have voted as a COLA, cost of living increase? This is a state initiative to address the degree wage gap. By withholding this amount from the intended recipients, you are perpetuating an inequity of pay to those of like degrees. On a personal note of importance of COLA, my rent has increased 14% this year. I have needed to pull from my savings to compensate and don't know how much longer I can continue without having the full COLA effective immediately. Teacher B, Santa Maria starting pay is $80,000. Vallejo got a 10.5% raise. Some nearby districts offer bonuses. You say we're a great school district, but if we can't find and retain people because we are not taking care of our teachers, how good can we be? Currently, we have an uncredentialed person in a position because the teacher from San Ramon with 20 years experience wasn't willing to take a pay cut to come here. The Solano County self-sufficiency standard is $51,000. BUSD starting pay is $54,000, barely above the level needed to be sufficient in Solano County.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here and speaking up. We're going to move on to our item number 11, approval of the consent calendar. The background information on these items is provided to the board prior to our meetings. A common motion takes action without discussion on roll call vote unless discussion of items is requested by the board members. So there's one item I think we need to pull out, correct, Ms. Martinez?
Oh,
Because
we're
it's
going to do a separate roll call. We're not pulling it, right?
Okay,
A
separate roll
resolution.
call. But we can ask a question if we have a question.
Absolutely.
All right, I do have a question. On the overnight field trips, I just want to make sure that that when those forms are being filled out, that they're completely filled out, because one of them does not say overnight, and it is an overnight trip. And I was also wondering, the training in Nevada that the students and teacher are going to, it's one day in November and one day in October, and then one day in November, correct? And they're flying in and back the same day, or is it overnight on that one? There was no hotel listed, or anything. So I just didn't know. Okay, I appreciate it. And then funding for the Redwood Glen field trip, who's funding that? It doesn't say the students, I don't believe.
I think there's still time to pull that and
Yeah.
bring it back.
Okay, all right.
We'll
so
get that information to you.
Appreciate it. And that one was fine. That one we have to pull out. Okay, so we're not gonna, we're gonna vote on what, pardon me?
There's no cost on the forestry challenge field trip.
There's no cost. That's fabulous. Thank you. All right. Okay, so we are going to approve I would like to see that we approve the consent calendar as written, with the exception of the items I spoke about in the overnight field trips to get clarification on, but I think it's still fine. I think, do you all agree that it still should be fine? Okay.
So are we pulling the field trips as a whole?
No, because I think I know what the answers. Well, legally, I guess we should pull it and bring it back to the next meeting.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
So on C, yes, please.
If these get pulled, does that leave enough time for them to be able to pay for everything? And no, I'm not saying in a bad way. I'm curious if this is time sensitive, or because the Benicia High School one's the beginning of October.
You're right.
And I'm just curious. I don't know that we.
And the next meeting, it would be brought on the 21st of September.
Would that give them time to? That's I understand the question, but I wonder if that would not leave them with the time to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm. I want to make sure they go. I mean, that's ultimately the goal, but I just had questions about it.
Can we approve it and still get the answers to those questions?
Yeah, I can give you the answers tomorrow morning.
Okay. All right. So can I get a motion on the table? A motion regarding item 11 of the consent calendar.
Are we pulling something else?
We're keeping it in. We're going to keep item C in. We're going to get answers from Dr. Wright in the morning. And then consideration and approval of the resolution, that's going to be a separate roll call. So yes, as a complete package, please.
I move that we approve the consent calendar as written.
Thank you. May I get a second?
You know, I have a question about the Hawaii, the Waikiki band competition. It says they'll be traveling by hired vehicle, but there's nothing in there about.
Well, we know they got to get.
Right. I mean, but I mean,
So
I don't
what they
understand
do
where
is this is an early request so that they can make the plans, and then they'll bring the final request forward to you once the plans are made.
Okay, that's what I was wondering,
makes
because, I mean, where's the cost of the air? And I don't see it here.
But I think it's student paid.
It is students,
Student paid.
okay.
I'm sure there'll be other expenses, but it's mostly student paid. Sorry to bring all that up, but let's
worries.
Go ahead and
I'll second the motion.
thank you. Roll call, please.
Yes, President Zeta.
Yes.
Trustee Grubbs.
Yes.
Trustee Moss.
Yes.
Trustee Maselli.
Yes.
And Trustee Hirsch.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience on that. Item 12.
Now I'm going to do the resolution.
Oh, the resolution. You're right.
So President Zeta.
Yes.
Trustee Grubbs.
Yes.
Trustee Moss. Trustee Maselli.
Yes.
And Trustee Hirsch.
Yes.
Thank you.
And with that, I want to acknowledge Clearview Staging LLC for their $1,000 donation to BHS Cheer. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Bravo. Go Cheer. We're going to move on to 12, which are presentations and communication and informational items. And Dr. Wright, will you please take this away?
All right, good evening. At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. John Isom. He's going to give us the data results of the feasibility study that was conducted.
Oops. It's okay. It's not the first time.
Won't be the last.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Let's try that again. Okay. It's a pleasure being here again. My name's John Isom. We've been the district's financial advisor for a long time. And if you recall, the last time I was here at the board meeting to talk about facilities needs, the board gave direction to go out and assess the feasibility of another school improvement measure in the community of Benicia. By way of background, for those that have been here for a long time, you know, but all the way back to 1991, voters in Benicia, about every 10 years or so, have approved at the ballot box a school improvement measure. So they've approved bonds in 1991, in the late 90s, 2014, but it's been what will be 10 years since the last time. Just by way of history, the 1991 bonds obviously have all been spent and have been paid off. The 1997 bonds have all been spent and will be paid off in 2 years. And then the 2014 bonds have all been spent, but still have remaining payments to go. So there's always been this great history of support here in Benicia, but you don't want to rest on your laurels and simply say, well, just because people have supported us in the past, they'll support us again. So what do? One of the key things in this feasibility study is we do a voter survey of registered voters. So I'm going to present you those results tonight. So if we just look to the first page, let's talk about the methodology for a minute. 20,000 registered voters exist here. And from that group, they don't all vote, right? If you're registered to vote, some people just have never voted despite being on those rolls. So we stripped those folks out. We focused on those that do vote, and we focused obviously on those that had a working phone number and those that would pick up the phone. So for those that did participate, we're very grateful. They provide us with valuable information. This is statistical information. It's quantitative, and I'll talk a little bit about qualitative at the end and what that means. So we had over 350 people participate, and the goal was statistically to get an idea of the levels of support among your voters. Support for a few different things. Fundamentally, would you support another school improvement measure? Would you support specific projects? Would you support specific tax rates? We want to be very open and transparent, and we want to get as much information as we can, because at the end of the day, if we've done our job right, we come back, the board can adopt a resolution that reflects what the voters are willing to support, right? Not what John thinks makes sense, not what Damon thinks makes sense, or the board, but hey, voters, it's your community, your schools, your dollars. You decide, here it is, here's an opportunity. So that's a little bit about the methodology. Now, I'm not going to take the survey in exact order of how the questions were asked, just to make this flow more logically. We've organized it in a kind of a summary of sorts. A lot of the information on the survey, frankly, is randomized just to make sure that people don't get the exact same order of questions, for example. So if anyone partook of the survey and you say, hey, well, wait a minute, that's not the order, that's the reason why. And I'm not going to hit every percentage here and every number. So we do start out by just saying, hey, how do you think things are going? Education, about schools in general, right direction, wrong direction. And you'll see that there's certainly a fair amount of folks that don't have an opinion, but 58% right direction, 23% wrong direction. Then we ask them about the quality of education, specifically in Benicia Unified School District. And as you can see there, I'd say great result there. You know, you'd certainly like to say everyone thinks it's excellent, but to have 25% excellent, 50% good, and a very small percent say poor to very poor, meaning you're doing a good job educating people. It's also important to note that these are not just parents that we're surveying, or just teachers, or just staff members. So that bottom left pie chart there, do you have kids in the school or grandkids, current or past? And you can see 41% of the people that participated have no ties to the school. And that's important because guess what? 41% of the people that are going to vote aren't going to have ties. So we do want their opinion, and so that is reflected here as well.
So we asked some specific questions about rating the district, and we wanted to get attitudes towards a number of different things, right? Teachers, the board, superintendent, condition of classrooms, etc. And as you look at this information, we organize it just in who gets the highest support levels versus the lowest support levels. And some of it you have to account for people that don't know. People are more familiar with teachers, for example, than they are with you, the board. But in any case, just for context, nothing alarming here. I would say generally good results across the board as it relates to how people are viewing things. Now, one interesting challenge may be the perception of facilities. As you can see on this, the number 2 tested item, condition of classrooms and school facilities, over 60% said, hey, good to excellent. And very few people, if you look at the green or the orange, very few people think that the schools are bad. So it's a good news, bad news, right? Congratulations, you're doing a good job in what people perceive to be good facilities. Bad news might beg the question, well, do you really need money if the schools are so good? Now, not everyone said it's excellent, so certainly there's room for growth, but again, some context there. But generally, this is what I call the do we like you slide, and generally people like the district. We ask a couple of thematic questions on the next slides. Do people think good schools improve property values? Overwhelmingly, people here in this community acknowledge and understand that. That wasn't always the case. You know, there was a time pre-Great Recession where it didn't matter where you lived. Everyone's property values were going through the roof, and people kind of forgot, hey, there's a correlation between my home value and schools. And I think the Great Recession kind of retaught that lesson because people realized, oh, the properties that didn't drop as much happened to be in a great school district. So 95% of the folks agreed with that. The state and their lack of support on helping on the facility side, 80% just about of folks felt that, yeah, we need to do more locally because the state's not pulling their weight across the board. All right, so generally up until this point, we've been kind of keeping consistent with the order of questions. So we haven't given a lot of detail, right? And we want to read, and we did read, this big, long, run-on sentence, also known as the ballot language. This is the 75-word question that may appear, or something like it, in the ballot. Now, why would we ask this question and have it be confusing? Because there's a lot of legalese in there. If a voter pays no attention to mailers, or the radio, or their friends, or nothing, and all they do is go into that ballot box, or that booth rather, and they vote on the measure, all they'll have is this 75-word question. So we wanted to say, what's your gut reaction to this language? Shall we fix the schools, issue some bonds, something about a rate in there, interest rates, kind of complicated. What's your gut reaction? And we asked, if the election were held today, would you vote yes or no? 61.1% said if the election were held today, I'd vote yes. 31% of the folks said, well, I would vote no if the election were held today. And then the rest are undecided or leans one way or another. What are we looking for, by the way? We're looking for 55%. We need 55% voter approval. So anything above 55%, we like to see, certainly. So far, so good. This is the gut reaction, right? This is the ideological. This is the, hey, grandma, this is my question to my grandma. Hey, grandma, do you vote for school bonds? And her answer, oh, I always support the children, right? She was a teacher for special ed for 35 years. And she never said, well, it depends on the tax rate, depends on the projects, right? She is an ideological supporter. My dad, on the other hand, sometimes needs some arm twisting when he'll say, I vote no on bonds. Well, what about this one, Dad? This is going to fix the school up that I go to, or your kids go to, your grandkids. So the ideological position is what that information shows us, and that's a big positive. Next battery of questions. Apologize for, and I'll touch on the language here, but smaller font. We asked this next battery of questions, the next few pages, and it's projects, and they're all randomized. You don't want to follow in the same order, so you just randomize everything. We've taken these and we've ordered them, greatest support to least amount of support. So top of the list, most important to voters, roofs. Fix, repair, replace, renovate those roofs. Career technical education, very important to voters here. Outdated HVAC systems, science labs, and student access to computers and technology. All of these, 75%. So when you say, what are the priorities of what we need at our district? That's the priorities of the voter. Next page, above 70%. Again, great support here. Old electrical systems, security and fire alarms, playgrounds and playfields, outdated classrooms, restrooms, and school facility modernization, and then the Performing Arts Center at Benicia High School. I thought that's a nice surprise. A lot of times performing arts centers, gymnasiums don't do as well, but in Benicia, that's something that was important to the voters here. Next slide, 65%. So everything is looking great so far, right? We're just great support. People like the projects. And I think part of it, just for context, for someone that does, dozens of these every year, these are reasonable types of improvements. We call them kind of the brick and mortar, right? There's not a lot of fancy stuff here. These are just, we need to take care of this, and people are acknowledging that those are good projects. Health and safety. And let me make one comment here before. If you notice on some of these questions, particularly the health and safety, there's a parentheses, SSB or SSA. That means half the folks were given an SSA language option, and the other half were given SSB. Split sample is what that stands for. So sometimes we're asking the same questions, playgrounds and playfields, athletic fields and facilities. Kind of the same thing, different language. We ask it a different way to see if one is more popular than the other. So in case you're wondering about what that means. So again, from the top, health and safety, student safety at drop-off and pickup areas and parking. That's a real need here, because in most communities, believe me, people do not say, yeah, that's important to me. So clearly, you have a need. Learning spaces, multi-purpose room, food facilities, replacing portable classrooms with permanents, providing new kindergarten classrooms at each school site. That one was interesting. Didn't get as much support as we'd think. And you know what? Legally, you have to deal with it, right? You guys have to provide TK facilities. And maybe it's just a question that most voters aren't familiar with the state law now and the state needs. But again, still above the 55%. Lastly, and this is just squeaking by on some of these, but new classrooms, including childcare facilities, again, one of those split samples about TK, multi-purpose rooms, another split sample, and then athletic fields and facilities. Playgrounds, playfields, they like. Athletic fields and facilities, not so much. But again, 55% or better support for all projects. That's important because as a board, you're going to ultimately be asked to make a decision and provide projects for voters. So this gives you two bits of valuable information. One, pretty much every project is well received. Two, you know what's a little more important to voters than others. So if you're trying to align your project list with the will of the voters, this is a tool that ultimately down the road can be used to say, you know what? That's just not that important to voters. I don't have enough money to do everything, which is part of the bad news. So let's do the things that are of highest priority. Okay. Now we're going into this. You get the idea. Boy, this is a long survey. If I was on the phone, I'd be tempted to hang up. So again, thank you for all those people that hung on and didn't hang up. We want to make sure people know it's a tax. It's a property tax, and we want to educate them. So we asked this battery of questions, and I'm not going to read it in detail, but in summation, would you be more likely or less likely if the tax rate was $59 per 100,000 of assessed value per year? And then people responded. Now we only got 52% here. So tax sensitivity, 43% of the folks said 59 too much. So then you say, hey, how about $49? Let's take it down a notch. Okay, as you would expect, support goes up a little bit, up to 55. Not a huge comfort, but 55% certainly is better than 52. And the opposition goes down a couple percent to 41. And then at 39, 61%. So similar to the 2014 measure where we listened to the voters, we didn't go for the $60, which is the maximum that you could pursue, but we went with something lower because of tax sensitivity. The same is true here. So up until now, up until that slide, everything was great news, great news, great news. Now it's but we have to be mindful of voters and their tax sensitivities right now. Next slide. All right, this is a great thing, and it's too bad some of the audience left because I rarely get to speak in front of a full house. A lot of times it's just you, but this is an important piece because I think this is unique to you. It's not uncommon across the state, but you're lucky in this regard. So remember how I had said earlier that you had these old bonds, right? They've been paid off, they're gone, and one's gonna drop off, and it's a pretty significant one. This one that's going to be dropping off in 2 years, right now the combined tax rate's about $140 per 100,000 of assessed value. Okay, that's what folks have been paying for the last several years to support the districts. That's going to drop off. We said, hey voters, instead of letting that completely disappear and we just stop making payments, what if we just extended that program but at a lower rate? So we're not going to increase the taxes. No increase of your taxes, would you be more likely or less likely to support it? And we asked that 2 different ways. SSA, you see 54% with 34% saying less likely, and a big chunk of folks saying don't know. And then when we got more specific on the SSB, the proposed measure won't increase the tax rate, but will extend the tax rate that is set to expire in 2026. That resonated very well, 65% of the voters. So when you think of that, right, do I ask for a new tax? Sensitive. People are not willing to necessarily shell out a new tax of $59 or even $49. But the idea and the concept of extending the old program, which by the way, extending it actually will result in a drop of almost $40. It's scheduled to go from about 143 to about 95, even with a new election. And then you get these additional dollars to make your facility improvements. Like I said, you're very lucky and you're very unique in the ability to do this. Fairfield Sassoon, by the way, just did this in 2022. Same type of program. Hey, no tax rate increase. Old bond's going to drop off. Let's keep paying it. Voters approved it. And now they've got another significant round of funding. Okay, 13, winding down. We presented all of this information, and I think we would all agree there was a lot of information, projects, tax rates. There's no surprise as to what's going on here. So he said, now that you've heard all this information, have you changed your mind? And you can see what we call the post-benchmark question. And interestingly enough, people didn't change their mind all that much. We got a little extra support among the yeses. The no's decreased from 31 to 29.9. But in essence, we didn't change things all of that much. Now that could be for a number of reasons. One, it could just be ideologically, people are locked in Benicia. Like my grandma who always votes for the bonds and my dad who's a maybe and other people who I always vote no. Maybe there's a lot of that ideological. I would suggest, based on the prior question, that there's still uncertainty as to what the ultimate thing might look like. Because if you went back to that question of this will only extend the bond program that drops off in 2 years, you get 65% support. But we don't say that here. We just said, now that you've heard all this extra stuff, what do you think? But in any case, the great news in all of this is you have nearly 62% support. What's the magic number here? 55%. Okay. So with all of this information, kind of as we wrap up in the last slide or the very, very last slide on conclusions and recommendations. People like the district. You get good marks for that. People like the schools. People like your projects, right? So there's no project that you're, I don't know, I really wanted to do that project, but the voters think it's a terrible project. They like all of the projects, some more than others. There is tax rate sensitivity for sure, for certain. And while a brand new bond would generate more money than a tax rate extension, the tax rate extension truly reflects the will of the voters and would be really what we would recommend, that the district say, hey, you know what? We're not going to get all the dollars. That's okay. We should be sensitive to both sides, not just projects, but taxpayers and their sensitivities. So our recommendation would be to continue this exercise. At the very beginning, I talked about feasibility study and figuring things out. Quantitatively, you look great. Quantitatively, like I said, if the election were held today, would you vote yes? Yeah, you win at 61%. So you could put this on the ballot absent anything else, but I would strongly recommend you do the qualitative exercise, which is, hey, mayor, hey, chamber, hey, teachers, hey, principals, hey, large taxpayers, what do you think of this idea, right? The everyday voter, they like it. Do you have any issues with the projects we're proposing? Do you have any issues with the concept of a tax rate extension? Are you okay with the timing? Because based on the survey, 2024, I would say wholeheartedly we would recommend the district put this on the ballot in 2024. But I would put that caveat to say, but please have some additional conversations with key stakeholders to make sure that they have the buy-in and the support that you need so that in fact you do get the successful result on election day. So it's a lot of information, a lot of good information. I hope you are excited about the results. It's a great report. And I'm happy to take any questions that you guys might have.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Isom. I have a clarifying question. I just want to make sure I have this right. In 2026, the 140, the bond will retire, but if we extend it, so property owners are paying $143 right now per 100,000.
Correct.
That's correct. Okay, thank you. And so if the bond passes, then the payment, the property tax would decrease to $99. Is that correct?
About 95, correct.
Okay, 95, thank you. And then does this bond include all properties, business properties, residential properties, or is it just residential?
Yes, all properties. So general obligation bonds, by their definition, are an obligation of the general public and deemed a benefit to the general public. So homeowners, gas stations, apartments, the processing plant, oil and gas, everything that normally pays a tax to the county, so pretty much everything except government buildings and churches, would be part of this program.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Please.
I see that if I'm reading this correctly, that we went out and did the survey to 355 individuals. So my question is, how did we determine those 355? And was it mixed between all of our areas in the Benicia? And secondly, that seems to be a very small number compared to our population. And I know we don't have 30,000 people voting, but it's like, so I'm just curious how we could get all that information from just that small quantity of people.
Yeah, great question. So I'll take the first one. How did we select these people and who do they represent? Okay, so from your pool of voters, again, if you had a working phone number, you were included. If you were registered to vote, but you've never voted, unless you just barely registered to vote, we excluded you. So these would be people who are going to vote. That's probably the best way to put it. Now, from that group, 355 is a fantastic number. Statistics was never my strong suit, something you should never say when you're doing a presentation like this. But I'm going back to college. I hated statistics. I liked baseball statistics, batting average, and all those things, but I don't, the class itself. But if you ever look at a USA Today, next time you see a USA Today, and I hope this sticks in your brain, they always have these little surveys. And they'll say, oh, we surveyed America. And you know how many people they survey from these USA Today surveys? It's 1,000 people. And you think, well, 1,000 people for 350 or 400 million, that can't be good enough. It is. It is. You don't need, that's what the purpose of a survey sample is to do, is to sample the community. And in this case, this sample of 355 people is reflective of your demographics, ethnicity, gender, age, geography, homeowners versus renters, right? So this 355, if I said, here's the, the tens of thousands of voters, and here's the 355, and percentage-wise, how do the demographics look? You'd say, oh, that's interesting. Same percentage of Republicans to Democrats. Oh, same percentage of homeowners versus renters. If there's one bias in the survey data, is it tends to skew a little older and a little more towards homeowners. Primarily because the younger generation, right? A lot of them have cell phones. A lot of them just never answer the phone. You think, who's the likelier person to pick up the phone?
Oh, yeah.
I think of my mom,
Absolutely.
bless her heart, turned 79 yesterday. I think of people that are like, yeah, I'm going to answer that phone. So you have a slightly, and I think it's good. You know why? Because it's a more conservative group that I think that would otherwise answer, as opposed to some 18-year-olds like, oh, how about the schools? Yeah, I love school. So that's the only difference is because of who ultimately answers the phone, it probably skews a little bit more conservatively. But as far as the numbers, not an issue. As far as demographics, totally representative of your voters.
So you're saying that the phone calls to these 355 people, those are actually people that answered? Because I've heard that people didn't understand why they were being called and they hung up.
Yeah, 355 are people that
Actual
suffered through the
people.
12 or
Okay.
13 minute
Okay.
survey. So this is all the data based on people that completed the survey.
And in your professional opinion, because I'm for this, you guys, I think it's important for our district or for our city. But the city is also going to be putting in things during the election cycle, bonds, or they're going to be asking for additional money. How then will that affect us?
It depends. I've done this for 25 years, right? And I can't remember if I shared this with you or not, but I point to a 2016 November election up in Shasta County, state of Jefferson. Did I tell you about this story or no? I got a half nod over here, but she's.
I remember your story.
Oh, you did? Okay. Well, for the audience's benefit and just a refresher, state of Jefferson, very conservative, Shasta County, Reading.
Very.
Thank you. Yeah, very _ very. We had 4 tax measures on the same ballot. 5, actually. One was a statewide school bond. The community college district had a bond. The high school district, Shasta Union High School, had a bond. The elementary school district, Cascade Elementary, actually just south of Anderson, had a bond. And the city of Reading had a tax measure as well. And so you would think, some people think, don't they just vote no on all straight down? They don't. Every single one of the school measures passed. We didn't represent the city, but all of our school bonds were successful. But that taught me a lesson. That taught me an important lesson that day, which is people value or evaluate the measures on their own merit, right? Like, would you really vote yes for the school measure, but if Benicia introduced a tax that, now I'm going to vote no on the school measure, you just say, well, I don't like the tax, I'm going to vote no on that, or I'll vote for both. So that wouldn't worry me. I would love the city to test if they put something on the ballot and you put something on the ballot, if people would vote for both, or you first or them. That'd be a great bit of information. But that doesn't concern me in the least.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. So thank you so much for your presentation, John. It's always nice to see you.
Likewise.
And we're going to move on to our next item. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, 12B. Nice job. Nice job in the back. All right. The next up is our attendance campaign, and we're going to welcome Dr. Ovick to the podium. Good to see you.
Good evening, Benicia Unified School District Board of Trustees and Superintendent Dr. Wright. My name is John Ovick. I'm the Director of Student Services, And tonight I'm going to be presenting an attendance campaign update. So the key points that I'm going to hit on this evening are our reciprocal attendance monitoring protocols, our truancy and chronic absenteeism protocols, and current data as far as what our attendance currently looks like. So for the next slide, could we go to? Yeah. Okay.
This was a slide that was not part of his presentation that he shared today.
Will you be able to insert it into our packet?
We will make copies of it, but because it wasn't part of it.
Thank you.
All right. And could you put it on slideshow so it's a little larger? Perfect. So what this is a look at our attendance or our enrollment last year. The official CalPADS enrollment as of October 2022. So let me start over. The left column is the grade level. The second column is 2023 official CalPADS enrollment as of October 2022. The third column is this school year on August 28th, 2023, which was the 10th day of school, and you'll see more about that in my presentation. And then the fourth one is new students enrolled this school year. So you'll see each of the categories or each of the columns in column 2 and 3 are color coded. And that is because those are cohorts. So the green one for TK in 22-23, in 23-24, they're kindergartners. All right, so like for example, for our current kindergartners, we had a student enrollment increase of 199 students. Our current first graders, we had a enrollment improvement of 14 students. Our current second graders, enrollment went up by 10 students. Our current third grade, stagnant, no movement at all. Current fourth grade went up by 8 students. Current fifth grade went up by 5 students. Current sixth grade went up by 3. Current seventh grade up by 16. Our current eighth graders went down by 6 students. Our freshman class increased by 10 students. Our sophomore class decreased by 3 students. Our junior class decreased by 2. And our current senior class grew by 10 students. And of course, none of our seniors from last year are here this year, so that was a decline of 403 students. So when you look at the overall enrollment numbers from October 2022 to August 28th, 2023, we have a decline of 13 students. The column on the far right, the fourth column, shows how many new students we had enrolled this school year per grade level. So TK, we had 20 new students. Kinder, 30. First grade, 10. Second grade, 15. Third grade, 9. Fourth grade, 11. Fifth grade, 8. Sixth grade, 13. Seventh grade, 12. Eighth grade, 6. Ninth grade, 23. 10th grade, 9. 11th grade, 10. And 12th grade, 9. So again, new students enrolled this school year is 185. All right, so our attendance plan that we have in place is that we're going to clearly define and communicate the tiers of intervention for attendance, and we're going to create and implement an attendance campaign, which would include school-wide culture of attendance and engagement, district and site attendance teams, tiered supports, and community engagement. As you remember from last year, both my presentation and from Dr. Beetson, we talked about the fact that our county office is supporting us in the area of attendance with differentiated assistance. You can see on here there is a a tiered system of supports. The bottom one would be for all students and all families. So that would be like general communication that we send out. Oh, sorry. General communication that we send out to all students. And then tier one would be, or tier two would be students missing 10 to 19% of the days. In tier three, the intensive, would be students missing 20% or more. Okay. So at our professional development day, I had the honor of working with all of our office staffs from all 7 of our schools. And what we reviewed was something that we created last year as sort of a reciprocal practice where the sites are doing things daily and also the district office, in particular, the student services department is doing daily, weekly, and monthly. So it starts with at the elementary schools at 8:30, any teacher who has not completed taking roll for that day, they receive a phone call. Some sites, they actually talk to the teacher and say, hey, take attendance. Another site, they just call, let it ring once and hang up. But that is the cue that it's 8:30 and you haven't taken attendance, we need you to do that. That's at elementary only. Daily, we have a robo-dialer for any unverified absence, one at 10 a.m. and the other at 3:30. This was initially a concern, the 10 a.m. one for the middle school and high school because they do period attendance. And so if a teacher forgot second period, then all those students would be notified that they're not at school. I go more with safety on that, where if I thought my child was at school and for whatever reason they're not there at 10 o'clock, I want to get a call. And if it's a mistake, I would totally understand. But what I've heard from both the middle school and both high schools is that it's successful, that they really haven't had any calls go out because people have forgotten to take attendance. So kudos to our staffs at both the middle school and both high schools. Daily, after lunch, the office staff runs what's called attendance management. And what this does, it's in Aries, which is our student information system. It hones in on just students who have unverified absences. They share this information with their administrator who oversees attendance. Then the next day, the next morning when they check it, if absences have still not been cleared, they are manually making phone calls to those families saying, you received 2 robo-dialers yesterday, I'm calling to check where Johnny was, et cetera. So we're getting in front of it. Weekly from the Office of Student Services on Tuesdays, letters are shared for our 2 different truancy processes, for truancy and chronic absenteeism. I'll tell you a lot more about those 2 processes in a couple minutes. Then what the sites do is they go through all the letters that are being generated and they decide, are we going to send it? Are we not going to send it? There might be some very, circumstances where the family is going through trauma and that letter might not be the best thing at that time. So they do have the ability to decide not to send a letter if they so determine that should be what happens. And if they decide they want to send a USPS letter, so the one you take to the post office, they're responsible for doing that themselves. Each site is. But the letters that my department sends out on Friday for our truancy protocols are emailed to the family, and then within our student information system, they are put on the attendance page. So it'd say like truancy letter 1, chronic absenteeism letter 1, and et cetera. Weekly, so this is on Friday. So any student or student's parent who hasn't cleared an absence for the week, the Friday before through Thursday, the principal or vice principals at that point are making the phone calls. They're reaching out to the family to say, hey, we haven't heard from you, what's going on? And then they also have an email that they send out to the family as well, just trying to get ahead of this and get all of our absences cleared and understand why our students aren't attending school. And then also, each site is keeping a list of students who are missing school for mental health reasons. So an excused absence could be for mental health. And those names then, when we get to 3 or more of those absences for mental health, it goes to the Tier 2 MTSS meeting, where a group of, the administrator, psychologist, teacher, classified, they sit down and they think outside the box. What have we offered at the Tier 1 that's not working? What can we offer at Tier 2 to support, the Smith family or whoever it might be? And then every 10th day of school, and I put a calendar invite out to all of our office staff and administrators every 10 days to run the chronic absenteeism review query. And what this is it calculates every absence, whether excused, unexcused, unverified, suspension, or tardy more than 30 minutes up to that day. And then based on that, we can figure out who's at 10%, who's above that, who's at 5%, who do we need to really wrap around and try to identify barriers that are preventing them getting to school. And I will give you an update on that in a couple slides. Oh, one back. Let's go. Okay. So that's what the sites are doing. Now I want to share with you, as part of this reciprocal protocol, what the district, what the Student Services Department is doing. So weekly, every Friday, I'm reviewing each site's unverified absence list. And we've actually sort of made a competition where every Friday I send out a spreadsheet and each school is listed, and as of 2:55 or 3:55, whenever I'm on there looking, how many unverified absences they still have standing at the end of the week. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a trophy, and I want to actually deliver that trophy to a different school, each site that is, meeting that mark, just to add competition to it and make it a little more exciting. I mentioned this before, but weekly, my office will be generating the attendance letters. Monthly, we are doing site attendance check-ins with principals and vice principals. We have 2 meetings a month right now where the special education department, ed services and student services meet with either the elementary administrators, middle school administrators, or high school administrators. In a portion of one of those meetings per month, we're going to focus solely on attendance and looking at numbers and what we're doing to support our families and our kids. Monthly, we will continue to have the school attendance review board meetings. Monthly, I will update during extended cabinet meetings, and quarterly, I will update at admin council meetings. And I am very happy to be here this evening updating you as to where we are now. All right, so these are our 2 different avenues to support students who are missing school. And I want to start by telling you, at the end of the school year last year, it was May 24th, we had a SARB hearing, and I think there were 12 students and families that were referred. And what we did is, with the students who are in elementary schools, we set it up so that myself and the site administrator actually did a home visit over the summer. We contacted the parent. We found a time that they'd be available. We said, is it okay if we come to your residence? Would you rather come to our office? Would you like to meet at Starbucks? What's best for you? They all invited us to where they live. And what we did was myself and the principal went to the house and we delivered the student a brand new backpack with school supplies, just trying to build some excitement on returning to school. And then on August 30th, so last Wednesday, we had a follow-up SARB meeting or check-in with all of those families. And what we did with the parent was we created a My Child's attendance plan. And it includes everything from, if I can't get my child to school, who's in my support network? Let's write that down and figure out who those people are. It included a school calendar where they can, at home, whether it's on the fridge or a bulletin board, they can mark when their student makes it to school. And then we made an agreement as to what the child would get. I'm happy to report that 4 kids, whenever they make it for a full week, they're going to get a chocolate fudge sundae. A couple students are going to get Robux for the popular game Robux. And then the other one, actually a high school senior, is going to be treated to sushi by her mom each week if she makes it every day. So pretty pretty cool stuff. And so we're really trying to meet the families where they're at, remove any barriers, and get the kids to school, get them engaged. So with this slide, there are two different paths, I guess you could say, like two different lanes to a road on how we support students missing school. The first one, chronic absenteeism. This is defined as any student who misses 10% or more of the days they're enrolled at school. So in a school year, if the student was enrolled from day one till the end of the year, that would be 18 or more days. So when the fifth absence occurs, and this is for any type of absence, excused, unexcused, unverified, late to school more than 30 minutes, or a suspension. So when a child gets to 5 of those absences, a first letter goes out, and site administration will meet either personally, invite them in, or over the phone or virtually, and we have a Google form that they're completing on how to re-engage the student. What do they need? What potentially are those barriers that are getting in their way? The second letter for chronic absenteeism goes out with 10 or more absences prior to the 100th day of school, which is January 29th, or 10% or more of the days enrolled following that date. And I recently learned that I can go in and change that, that trigger, for lack of a better word, as to when that letter goes out. So once we get to January 29th, I know that every 10 day beyond that, and I'll mark the trigger for that letter to go with that date. And then, so if that letter goes out, the site attendance team is going to meet with the family. And what they're going to do is they're going to do that My Child's attendance plan that I just completed with several principals and families last week. And then finally, 15 absences or more prior to the 100th day of school, or 15% beyond that. At that point, we will have a meeting here at the district office, or I will join them. We want it to be a safe environment where they feel that they're heard, they're supported, and really work with them on, what are those barriers that are in the way of your child getting to school. The other side, the other lane, is for truancy. These letters go out only for unexcused absences or tardies more than 30 minutes. So the first letter goes out with 3 or more of those. Second letter goes out with 6 or more, and then they schedule a SART meeting, and that is a school attendance review team. So the principal or administrator sets up a meeting with the parent and student, completes a couple forms, talks with the family about why they're missing school, etc. If the student has an IEP or a 504, the SART is actually part of that meeting. So they'd have to schedule an IEP or a 504 to have that SART meeting, because they might have to set up some goals or things like that to support the child. The next one is for 7 or more, and at that point, the school would send a SART contract violation notice. With 9 or more, they would get the truancy letter number 3, and then 10 or more, they would be referred to the school attendance review board. And that is, we meet in here. This year, we're going to have a social worker from the county part of that. We have our school resource officer. We have our district nurse, someone from the site that is sort of representing the case. And then, of course, the family is invited to that as well. All right, so what I want to share with you now, this is the 10th day of school. So I shared earlier that we taught all the office staff how to run that query for 10% or more. This is the data that they pulled and shared on August 28th, the 10th day of school. So as you look at this, the schools are on the far left column. The second column is how many students are enrolled as of the 10th day of school. The third column is students who have 1 or more absence. The fourth column is students with 3 or more absences. And the fifth column is students with 5 or more absences. So on the 10th day of school, one absence or more is considered chronically truant. And so with that, we had 735 students who missed at least 1 school day. And so that is 17% of our student population. When you then look to the right, 3 or more absences, we had 150 students, which is 3% of our population. And then 5 or more absences, we had 44 students, which is 1% of our student population. This is the update as far as our protocol. Actually, this afternoon, I put together a messaging plan that I hope to get out our first messages to our families, different for elementary than secondary. With the support of Attendance Works, there are different things that we can share via Twitter or X. There are things that we can share on our Facebook, and then also messaging that we'll send from the district. So thank you for your time this evening, and if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have a couple of questions. So in terms of like services that are being offered for parents, do you have a kind of like a clear gauge on like maybe some of the top 2 or 3 reasons why we're seeing, this chronic absenteeism by chance? And then the other thing was, are you engaged with any like groups any community groups within the city, like in terms of building partnerships? And I ask because I attended another meeting the other day, and so the district is actually they've created this whole list of community partnerships where they're offering support to families and students. And then the other question was too, I know that the SRO officer is involved with the SART process. Is that correct?
With SARB, yes.
Yeah, and SARB. And so are students being cited, or are parents being cited, or what is the link with that?
So I'm going to try to go back and so as far as community partners, right, I'm excited that we have someone from the county who's a social worker who will be joining us, who can provide resources outside of the school district, possibly from the county. We haven't received the certificates yet, but Pizza Pirate has agreed to partner with us again this year. And what we're going to do this year is it's going to be more a lens of awesome attendance. 98% or higher. So monthly at the elementary schools when they have their celebrations, for their PBIS values and whatnot, there will also be a drawing in front of the student body. The kids will get rewarded for perfect attendance, 98%, and then one child who has 98% or higher will get a certificate for Pizza Pirate, where like last year, the student could go and sort of provide a pizza for their family for having awesome attendance. With the question about citing, that is an option that can be done, that we have used in the past. It's not appropriate from the school attendance review board for every case, but there are certain cases that we have cited families, and then our SRO brought those families to the district attorney last school year.
And then what were, if you happen to know, and if you don't, and you can maybe share later, but I was just curious to know, like, what are some of the issues that families are facing in terms of when we see that the students are being absent as much as they are?
Yeah, so I'll tell you 2 that I know firsthand. One of the families that we visited over the summer, the father told us that he shifted his work hours. He talked to his boss and he said, my child's education and getting him to school is as important, if not more so, than me working starting at 5 a.m. And his employer switched his hours so now he can get his child to school. Another example that I want to share is, not knowing when to send your child, when not to send your child. And so I know that on our district website under health services, there is that exact thing of when you should send your child, when you should keep them back. And, there's still uncertainty around that. And so, with the family that we met with who had that concern last year, they said this year, they said, thank you for bringing us in and helping us. We've never been parents before. None of us have, right? But, being able to help them in understanding, number one, the importance of school, and number two, when you should really keep your child home and when they can come to school, has helped them as far as making those decisions for their child. Yeah.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Given, actually kind of 2 questions. One, to build on what you just said about should you send your child to school? I know at my son's elementary school, COVID has completely wiped out classrooms, including his. And there's it might be worth, do you have any plans to maybe send that out in Parent Square? I know people get a lot of messages, but just having that, you know, what are the guidelines for when to send your child to school to right in front of you? I don't know that people are going to go to the website. Might be helpful. And then my other question just has to do with the chronic absenteeism so far. And I don't know if you have this data in your head or, or not, but I'm curious to see how do we compare to last year? Given I know that there was a lot of COVID going around right now.
All right, so comparing to last year, I would want to give you the most accurate information, and I don't have that in front of me right now. Sharing the when should I keep my child home? I actually just shared this with our district nurse. On social media, I saw another school district put together a video, and it was their district nurse talking about when you should send your child and when you shouldn't, and it's the same guidelines. And so we're looking at what other people are doing, and so you know that was one thing that I saw that I thought was a different way, an easy way of getting that out. And I agree with you, not everyone goes and checks out our website.
Actually, just to follow up on that, that's great because people also take in information differently, and some people won't read an email. You know, so having a video, they might click on that.
Yeah,
That's,
and I
like
actually
that.
saw
That's
it
great.
on Facebook.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we're
All right.
good. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Dr. Ovick. We appreciate you being here and getting all this up and running. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to move on to our next item, which is Universal TK update. And Dr. Beatson, you're up. You've been waiting all this time patiently.
Good evening. I think I'm so lucky because I get to present our amazing TK program, and we have some of our amazing TK teachers here in the audience, and they'll get up and say a couple words at the end and introduce themselves.
Excellent.
But I wanted to just bring this back to you as we continue to roll TK in our district. What I really want to talk about is remind everyone what the requirements are and where we are in that process, tell you a little bit about our transitional kindergarten program, and then share just some delightful pictures and some words from our teachers. So you have some live here and in person, but what's so exciting is when we started TK way back when, we had 1 TK in the district, and now we have 6, and so that's just really awesome.
Awesome.
Just some reminders, this school year, 23-24, students, in order to qualify for transitional kindergarten, had to turn 5 between September 1st and April 2nd. So every year, it expands by 2 months. Next year, in order to qualify for transitional kindergarten, students need to turn 5 between September 1st and June 2nd. In 25-26, when we'll be fully rolled out, students must be 4 by September 1st, which means this is really a program for 4-year-olds. But I want to just emphasize that because we start school, when did we start school this year? August 10th or something like that? So they could be 3 when they start with us in that outer year, which is a big shift because when we started a couple of years ago, students had to be 5, I can't even remember, by the first 2 months of school. So they were almost, they were almost kindergarten age. They were just a couple of months off from that kindergarten window. And so in a couple of years' time, they will be 3 or just turning 4. So it's a big shift. And we have done some shifting in our program because of that, because 3-year-olds that are just 4 have very different needs than kids who are just turning 5.
I have a question, Dr. Beatson.
Yes, ma'am.
Are they going to be all out of diapers?
Not necessarily. So the law says that we can't have children not come if they are not potty trained. We're going to work with families. We're going to do lots of messaging. It is in, so remember all of the TK classrooms have assistants in them. And so our assisting with toileting is in that job description. So we have people who are working with our nurse. We'll continue that. What does that look like and sound like, and how do we do that? But you cannot tell kids they can't come if they're not toilet trained. So where are we this year? At Matthew Turner and Joe Henderson, each of those schools have 2 TK classrooms. And at Robert Semple and Mary Farmer each have 1. And so just other reminders, the ratio, which is in the law for transitional kindergartner, is 1 adult to 12 children. And so every classroom has a teacher and an assistant. And all of the teachers need to have, in addition to a credential, they have to have 24 units of early childhood education and a multiple subject credential. So there's additional credentialing that they need to have. In terms of the curriculum, when we started TK years ago, it was really thought of the first of a 2-year kindergarten program, right? It was really about kindergarten readiness. And as our children are getting younger that we're having, it is more of a bridge. And if you think about preschool, we do a lot of preschool play readiness as they're coming in at 3 and 4 years old. And as we get just closer to the end of the year, it's more of that kindergarten readiness. So it's really a bridge program. It is a standards-based, it's child-centered, really developmentally appropriate, really focused on play. And we use a curriculum called Frog Street, which is it's a bridge from the preschool curriculum that we use. And we have a combination of standards. So the preschool learning foundations, which they're actually updating and changing the name to preschool TK. And the real push in the state is called P3. So it's preschool through 3rd grade, really looking at that kind of early childhood. We use some of the kindergarten Common Core and the frameworks there. I just was at a workshop at the county, and really they were just talking about how does TK align with that preschool framework. I'm not going to read all of these, but it's about relationships, it's about play, it's about integration, experiences, family. So it's really about that supporting that whole child and recognizing that they're young. I loved this quote, centering play, which is an issue of equity. Decades of research has shown that through play, children learn a breadth of social, emotional, cognitive, and physical skills and essential dispositions for learning. For children who are impacted by trauma, play provides a place to safely express their range of emotions, feel a sense of agency and control, and build coping skills and resilience. Play is so important for young children's health, development, and well-being that it is called out as a special right of all children in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. And so one of the big shifts in our TK program from when we started is really building in more time for that social emotional learning, for that play, for that experiential learning as our children get younger. And so I'm going to just show a snippet of this because it's just darling. It's about 3 minutes long, so I can keep, did you already?
Play is the place where children learn how to deal with real world things, where they can take control of them, where they can try things out, where they can see how they work.
Yucky. Those neurons are connecting and strengthening as children engage in the world. And much of the time, if you watch them in natural experience, they're playing.
And in the process, as children get more developmentally advanced, they bring more and more sophisticated process into their play, and it's so important for optimal development.
They're learning how to solve problems. They're doing all this naturally. It's extraordinary how much learning on the social and emotional plane is occurring.
You steal! I'm using it for the table. But I want to help! All right. I want to help! I'll just hold this one. Okay.
Play is a very holistic thing. So sometimes we say, oh, we learn concepts, we learn social, emotional skills, but the truth is the whole child's engaged in play all the time. They are talking all the time, they're interacting, they're deciding together what they're going to build if it's in blocks, and they're building together.
It's a fire truck airplane.
You learn things about gravity. You learn things about eye-hand coordination. You learn things about geometry.
They're communicating about what they're doing and collaborating in the story. They're hearing each other's ideas and altering their own.
I'm gonna dump this whole thing out for you to make more cupcakes. So I have an idea, we can put it.
It's that concrete hands-on experience where you try things, you see how they work, you make mistakes, you adjust your eye-hand coordination, and every child's going to do that in a different way.
They're thinking in original ways, they're inventing, they're creating. These are the capacities that we need as human beings.
That process they're going through, that learning to problem find and problem solve and being really good at it and getting the satisfaction of doing it, that's what they need to do to learn how to read.
Everything that they are going to need for later learning and success in school and life is getting established in the play process in the early years.
The better problem finders they are, the more engaged they're going to become in the world, the better learners they're going to be, and the better participants they're going to be.
It's wire time, okay? I gotta get out here.
To share that because the nature of the program has shifted, and as we walk classrooms, the play is the learning in the younger grades, and our teachers do an amazing job.
Can I ask a question?
What's going on again? There we go. Yes.
So do the TK classrooms have all the equipment and supplies and furniture that they need?
Great question. So we are, we've bought a lot of new furniture for the TK classrooms as we expanded. I don't know, I'd have to go back and look and see if we've replaced all the furniture in the previous TK classrooms, but when we were purchasing it, we worked with the preschool and also looked at what was developmentally appropriate and bought a lot of that. And we're still filling in the gaps on things. We bought the armoire for the dress up, but we need to buy the dress up clothes. And how do we buy babies? And does that count as curriculum? And can we use lottery funds for that? So it's interesting as this has expanded. How do we build up all of that? So are we there 100%? No. Are we continuing to build it? Yes. Is that?
Go to the community to
Right. We're figuring out how to do all of that because
we've got a great community.
yes, we do.
And lots of costumes out there.
Yes. So the next few slides are just some pictures of the play and the learning that's happening in our current TK classrooms. So I'm just going to give you a minute to look at those. You can see we've got sand, we've got outside things, blocks, and then in some of the pictures, the kids are practicing some letters already with chalk.
These are students?
These are our students, yes. These lovely teachers out here sent me those pictures this year. So, and with that, I would love to invite our TK teachers up to the podium to introduce yourselves. And if you want to say a few words, you are welcome to.
Come on down.
And don't you just love their t-shirts?
Yes.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Dr. Wright, Dr. Gill, and Dr. Beatson. My name is Kelly Ingram, and I am the transitional kindergarten at Mary Farmer Elementary. Standing beside me is Nicole Maggart. She's the instructional assistant in my classroom. With intentional planning, small group instruction, and incorporating play in all that we do, we were able to bear witness to the tremendous growth exhibited by our students over the course of the 22-23 school year. Mrs. Maggard and I are very proud of our work, especially with the current feedback from our kindergarten teachers, and we are looking forward to another positive and successful year. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to come up and say your name and share?
Hi, I'm Rachel Powell. This is now my 8th year in TK at Benicia Unified School District, so I'm really happy to have been here for so long and excited for some of the new changes. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carrie Gunchin. I'm the new TK teacher in your district. I'm at Joe Henderson, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for being here.
Hello and good evening. I'm Julie Lagai, and I'm the other TK teacher at Matthew Turner with Rachel. And so just in general, I love going into work every day, just being with the kids. They're living in the moment. They're teaching me to live in the moment. But I think overall, we really kind of take that whole student approach. We see where they're at. We really look at them socially, emotionally, academically, where we're now, and even where we are 4 weeks later right now is like phenomenal growth that we've seen. So daily, we guide them in ways with a lot of hands-on practice. I mean, when you come into each of our classrooms, you're going to see materials out, hands on all of them, things that they can touch, they can feel, they can move, they can, all those types of things. And then within that time that we're doing the hands-on practice, we're using a lot of social and emotional development, working on problem solving, working on community building, working on bringing everyone together. How do we get through our day and, solve something that doesn't go exactly how we have planned? And so overall, we're just really excited each day that we're able to be in the classroom and see that growing, that learning, that exploring, and also really that social emotional learning at the heart of our everyday. At Matthew Turner, we talk a lot about our core values, and our kids actually take their picture and put it under, I'm going to be kind today, or I'm going to be responsible today, I'm going to be respectful. So every morning prior to their first center, they're going and making that commitment for today. Tomorrow, they might be responsible. Yesterday, they might have been kind, but they're really living, working, breathing those core values. So overall, I think as a team, all of us are building a solid foundation for what is yet to come. And it's really exciting to be in the front row seats of all of that, to where they are now and where they're going next.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here, TK team. You're welcome to, we're done. So, I mean, you're welcome to get up and go home and enjoy your families. But at this time, I want to, Dr. Beetson, did you have anything else to say? Any other comments? Okay. So I'm going to say we have 13. There's nothing to do on action items. And we're going to adjourn. The next regular governing board meeting is Thursday, September 21st. And we will see you then. Thanks for being here. Good night.